My name is David MacMillan. I'm a professor of chemistry at Princeton University, which is in the United States. But I was born in Glasgow, in Scotland, and did my undergraduate degree there before moving to America, where I spent the rest of my career. I am an organic chemist. Why is organic chemistry so important? Organic chemistry is the chemistry of life. It means it's made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. And if you think about everything around us in the natural world, most of it is organic molecules. Now, you and I, and every human and every mammal and every insect and plant we see is made up of organic molecules. So understanding organic chemistry allows you to think about humans, allows you to think about our world, it allows you to think about medicine, makes you think about agrochemicals, perfume, makes you think about polymers. All these things that we care about in our society are made from organic molecules. So understanding those molecules, understanding new chemical reactions that make organic molecules, that's why I'm excited about it. Yeah, so there's different ways you can do this. So for example, I always tell any high school student, I say, look around you right now. Every single thing that you can see is made by a chemical reaction, every single thing. And if you think about chemical reactions, how do we invent them? How do we develop them? How do we come up with new ones? There's an area called catalysis that allows some chemical reactions to go faster, but it also allows some chemical reactions that were previously impossible become possible. And that's the area that I work in, is catalysis, which allows you to invent completely unknown chemical reactions. So I love to tell people, you could invent a chemical reaction that on a Tuesday was completely unknown, and on a Wednesday will be known forever. And that's a very exciting field to be part of. Asymmetric organocatalysis is, so if you think about your hands, right? Look at your hands and ask yourself, are they identical? They kind of look like they're identical. Most people would say, yeah, I think they're identical, but they're not. And we know they're not identical. They're mirror images of each other. And we know they're not the same because if you take the glove from your left hand and try and put it on your right hand, it doesn't work, it doesn't recognize it. That's those mirror images which are actually different. Now, organic molecules have the same property, the same characteristic. And what's really interesting is the human body and all of life is made up of one mirror image and not the other mirror image. So what we need to do is to be able to make one mirror image and not the other one, because if we didn't, medicines could be dangerous, because our body, much like a glove, our body can recognize one mirror image and not the other one. And so if we take the wrong mirror image of a medicine, it can be extremely dangerous, can be toxic. Asymmetric catalysis allows you to make molecules as one mirror image. Organocatalysis allows you to use organic molecules to do that chemistry. The reason why that's important is because organic molecules are completely sustainable. They're part of life. When you think about a tree or an animal or anything else that at the end of its life, it goes right back into the life cycle and it's completely sustainable. So for that reason, organic molecules are fantastic catalysts. Sure. So the story, which is a little bit embarrassing, but it's still true, is I went to university to do physics. The reason was my brother was the first person I'd ever known to go to university. We didn't know anyone in my town, or no one from my high school had ever gone to university before. My mom and dad were very unhappy about it because my father was a steelworker. They wanted my brother to go to the steelworks, and he said, no, I'm going to go to university. And it was very controversial. My father thought he was being lazy, which was probably true, but he went to university to do physics. And after he got his degree, he made more money for his salary as a job than my father made in the steelworks. And my mom and dad came to me and said, you have to go to university. But they told me I had to go and do physics. So I went to Glasgow University to do physics. But when I went there, I really didn't like it. I'd go to lectures at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was in Scotland and it would rain a lot. The roof of the lecture theatre would leak rain, so we'd be in the lecture theatre, it'd be raining on us. And it was cold, it was very, very cold. But what was very interesting to me was like 1 hour later, we would go to across the street to chemistry. It was a beautiful lecture theatre, it was nice and warm, and I started to realize that this chemistry thing was actually pretty good. I actually liked it. So given the choice of physics, which I was terrible at, in this cold lecture theatre, or being able to do this chemistry in this really nice warm lecture theatre, I decided my second year I was going to make the scientific conceptual leap to moving over to chemistry. Yeah, I think that's a sort of crazy idea that some people in society try to suggest that scientists are elitists. We're elitist, which is completely nuts. The reason why it's nuts is if you think about most scientists, scientists are people who really care enormously about society. They spend their whole life trying to do things to make society better. I always tell people scientists are really the working class of all the different areas because they work so hard to make everyone else's life better. And the other way of saying that is instead of thinking of scientists as being at the top of the mountain, they're actually at the bottom of the mountain trying to get everyone else to the top of the mountain. So it's a completely crazy notion that scientists are elitists. So I always try and tell people, if you really care, if you want to have a job or a career where you really are doing something to benefit all of sort of humankind and all of society, science is an amazing way to actually do that. Skepticism and misinformation is a really big problem for science. Because if you think about it, we're now at this point in society where we're beginning to reject knowledge. That's the first time maybe in society that we've really looked at that. There's been some regimes that have sort of burned books in the past, and that we've recognized those broadly around the world as being bad things. But now we see the prevalence of people wanting to push back on actual knowledge. This is really very, very dangerous. To me, it's almost quite ironic as well, because if you think about it, all these notions about being anti-science are really being propagated on these iPhones and think about those phones. Where did those phones come from? They came from science. So the things that gave us these devices are now being used to propagate this sort of anti-science notion. I think from my perspective, the most dangerous part of it is most of it would not happen if it wasn't for certain individuals and certain people who are political people are using an anti-science platform as a way to sort of push to become more popular and to be elected effectively. So that's the biggest issue. I think as more and more and more people realize that science is really there for everyone, it's not political, it's not them versus us, science is for the whole human race. That's the part which is the most important. Yeah, I think most Nobel Prize winners would say it definitely changes your life. It's completely bizarre. It's completely surreal. One day, I'm a reasonably well-known chemist to some chemists, and then the next day, your face is on the front of the New York Times. It's a very, very strange thing. I always tell people the thing which was most difficult for me was the fact that I'm a chemist, and I'm not used to people being nice to me all the time because I'm a chemist. But from a scientific viewpoint, it's been really remarkable because you get even more opportunities to work with the best people in the world. You get more and more opportunities to meet with other scientists that you've never met before. So that part is really remarkable and fantastic. The other part is the respect that you receive from the rest of the world. The Nobel Prize is a brand which is known in every country in the world. So you can walk almost anywhere. I tell people you can walk into a bar in New Zealand or in Thailand, in Germany or in America. And if you tell people I'm a Nobel Prize winner, everyone will buy you a beer, which is kind of hilarious. It's kind of useful sometimes, but it's also a sort of respect thing. And so the access that comes from that has also been really valuable. You get to meet artists, you get to meet amazing chefs, you get to meet the best soccer players in the world. I love soccer. You get to meet the best soccer players in the world. You get to meet all these other people who are viewed as being some of the best people at what they do. And that has been an incredibly interesting component of the whole thing, is to get access to a much larger range of people. But ultimately the scientific component of it, being able to do other types of science that was not possible before, for me that's probably the most rewarding component of it. So I've learned a lot through being part of this prize committee, this prize jury, about other areas, which has been really impressive. When I talk about my own area, which is organic chemistry, Spain is a world leader. Spain, for reasons which are probably beyond my own education, has grown up to be extremely strong in organic chemistry. And this is not went unnoticed. For example, many pharmaceutical companies are in Spain that are not in really any other countries in Europe. They're in America, they're in Spain, maybe some in the UK. So Spain has this incredible tradition in organic chemistry. So I've had many Spanish co-workers come to me. They're incredibly well trained, they're incredibly dedicated. They really care about organic chemistry because of this wonderful tradition. So my experience of Spanish science has been that people who genuinely are passionate about this field of study and want to see where it's going to take them, but also take the field. So for me, that's been one of the most, I would say, interesting components, is trying to understand the Spanish mindset when it comes to science. It's really interesting. It's very different from the rest of the world, but it's one which is very forward thinking and very driven, actually very proud as well, which I think is something that's very important to this community. This prize is really interesting for me. You know, I can talk about the Nobel Prize and the fact that the Nobel Prize is really designed to help the world care about science, right? That's what it's there for. When the Nobel Prize announcements comes out, it's 1 week of the year where the whole world turns to find out who won this and what did they win it for and why is it important. And it has this really amazing reputation around the world. What I see for this, the JAMA Premio Prize, is the fact that you're seeing a recognition of phenomenal scientists in Spain. And it's this continual attempt or belief in promoting science, which is really important. The thing that really amazed me about this prize, though, was the scope of it, the range of things that it cares about, and it keeps expanding. So it's really recognizing who are the best people, who are really contributing through science and economics and entrepreneurship to the whole society of not just Spain, to the world, but being recognized by people in Spain. I think that is a very important thing, because it reminds the whole of society how valuable these people are, but also why those areas are so critical. Yeah, I have lots of other passions. I used to fly airplanes, which is not something that, you know, I'm a working class kid from Glasgow. The idea of flying an airplane is ridiculous. But I had a fear of flying, so I decided I'd take flying lessons to overcome my fear of flying. So I learned how to fly a plane just so I could overcome my fear of flying. Other things though, I love soccer. I'm a huge, huge soccer fan. I follow my football team in Scotland, Rangers. I follow the national team. I'm about to leave here to go to watch the European Championships, to watch Scotland play Germany. I'm incredibly excited about that, even though Scotland's going to get killed by Germany. I really love things which I would say are sort of normal, average things that most people love. That's me. I am that person. I love the things to do. Good music, good television, Netflix, good soccer. Those are the things which I love. Yeah, the thing I would say is, you know, I can only base things on the lessons I've learned in my life. And the lessons I've learned are, no one ever starts off in life thinking they're going to win a Nobel Prize. What you do is you take one step at a time. Your life is a ladder, and you don't know that at the beginning, but it is. And you always have to be just reaching for that next step and always reaching for the next step. And I found myself to be very lucky, but also I think I've been someone who's always been focused on the next step, and not being worried about 10 steps ahead. So young scientists, I always try and tell them, you know, focus on what you're good at. How are you going to take yourself to the next step? And once you get there, that will become normal. And once you're at that normal, think about the next step again. It's a great way to sort of look at the world. Second thing I'll say is, a belief I've always had is that I take my career very seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. So if you can laugh every day of your life, you'll be the wealthiest person on the planet. I truly believe that. So enjoy yourself as you're having fun doing great research. That's the best way to do it.